Hello, thank you for joining this webinar. Life is simple for most people. It really is. But for some people it is complicated, and they complicate it themselves. How to live a life without regrets is a concept which is dear to my hearts because I have some family members, unfortunately, who passed away and are in their last days. I heard them say, I regret many things which I did and many things which I didn't do. How would you live a life without regret? What would you do to make sure that on your last day you wouldn't be able to say some of those things? You see, there are many people in this world who live a certain life in a certain way. And they make plans on what they want, what they wish, what they look forward to. But not everything sometimes works that way. You can't always program what you want and make it happen exactly that way. Things will change. You have some control, and certainly you have the power to do anything you can to get to where you want it to be. But sometimes plans have to change. There are those who don't have a plan. We all know why they fail, because they don't have a plan. They don't apply what they learned. But as a failure, that's equally potent and sometimes more dangerous is when you stick to your plan. It is devastating. Sometimes I have a plan and that becomes my trap. Why? This is my plan, I say. This is it. My plan. And nothing else is going to change it. Think what happened to some companies like Kodak, AOL, Nokia. You know, one of the CEOs of these companies, if I'm not mistaken, spoke to their employees, about 3,000 of them. And at the time, it was not clear when they were closing their doors. And this is what he said. We did everything right. But what was the problem then? Well, that we were not ready to accept the time of change. And everything that was right yesterday was wrong today. Wow. What a powerful statement. You see, sometimes you have such a beautiful plan, you get stuck to your plan because you can't move anywhere else because you think it's so well thought out. The problem is that this plan, which yesterday was your source of success, is today the reason for your failure. We sometimes do it with our own children and our own families. We have a beautiful plan. Everything is working out. But using this plan for this child will be absolutely counterproductive. So what should we do? What you need to do at this moment is to take your plan, tear it up, throw it in the garbage, and never look back. In other words, if you don't have a plan, I'm going to fail. But if you have a plan that you stick to, this plan will fail you. And you won't allow yourself the element of spontaneity, of surprise, of reality. And this is what sometimes knocks on the door and says, hello, there is a different reality going on right here. Listen. But I can't always plan for that. I'll tell you something from my own experience as a consultant to thousands of doctors throughout the country who've attended my hundreds and hundreds of seminars for the last 26 years, and from whom I have learned so much myself. Trust me, when I go to these seminars, often I learn so much more than anyone could ever imagine. I pick up information from everybody. And as you know, I speak nationally as well as on this radio show, which is attended by thousands of people, and I appreciate all the support. Know, however, that before I speak, I plan. You can see me always prepared. Everything I'm going to say. Even though I know what I'm going to say, I read it. but I prepared it. Now, even though sometimes, I admit, you have to wing it. Sometimes. Usually I have time and I plan what I'm going to speak about. I very much disrespect, with all due respect, those who don't prepare because they speak and the audience does not know what the speaker is going to say. They remind themselves, by the way, of things in the middle of a lecture, and everybody has to suffer because they reminded themselves, oh my goodness, something else I wanted to talk about. There's no structure, there's no beginning, there's no middle, there's no end. I believe when you present a subject, it has to come full circle with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if something, at times, doesn't belong there, either in terms of content or at least engagement, delete it, take it out. One person said, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them. And tell them what you told them, and then sit down. That's a good speech. That's a good lecture. Structuring a presentation is critical, and intelligent people right away will recognize that there is a beginning, and in the middle of the speech, they know that this was all thought out. It's complete and vital to make it a wholesome, educational, meaningful, inspiring, and engaging presentation. And this could be in whatever field, in whatever the issue could be, and whatever you're discussing. However, I've learned over the years that my plan of what I'm going to do or say, or how it's going to affect people to whom I'm speaking to, is always the smallest part of it. It's so often when things I never planned, and sometimes I'll say something just because I felt that it should be said, because it is at the very moment where this impact is felt in people's lives beyond what I could have ever expected or sometimes even anticipated. And I knew I really didn't plan that transformation. And it happened during that moment. And it is greater than I could ever imagine. Amazingly enough, I hear positive feedback from people over many years of the powerful effects that my speeches at that time had on them. And this was from the things that I never planned. That's how things are in life. But you may ask why? Because what I plan is limited to my ego. It's indeed limited to my imagination, even though imagination is not a bad thing. And certainly you can't live without imagination. Life throws us curveballs. We didn't expect them. And in the midst of any challenge, it is a very easy moment to give up or to blame others or everybody around you. The defeatist tendency only keeps you stuck in your own suffering, or worse yet, it drags you down into even more circumstances. If you truly wish to attain any worthwhile objective, the road is not an easy one, you know that, and you must be prepared to make certain sacrifices. As a matter of fact, the more ambitious and worthy the objective, the greater must be the effort and sacrifice, which, by the way, in itself is the criteria of how important the objective is going to be. So, planning ahead is critical for your future. But if things are not going the way you planned, tear up your plan and write new ones. Life is all about success, not despair. Life is about growth, not uncultivated concepts. Life is about change, not stagnation. If you want things to happen, if you want things to change, you have to change. For things to change, you have to change. That's where it starts. It all starts with you. As you can see from what I just spoke about, I did not look at my notes. And the reason for it is because I pretty much know what I have written. I time them all up, and then certain of the points are highlighted, and I express them. The key, however, is to be prepared. And I was prepared, as you can see from my speech. But if there is a curveball, and as it is often in life, be prepared for that. Don't let this thing come and change everything. So you could be experiencing at times obstacles, challenges. Don't look at them as the end result. Look at it as a passing moment. God is drawing a comma, not a period. Don't turn this potential opportunity into an objective for you to think this is the end of the world, because it's not. You have the opportunity to make changes, and curveballs will happen, changes will happen. You know, I can remember years ago I was sued, and they came to my office and delivered the papers, and they said, "You've been served." So I looked at it, and just the first few lines, and I flipped it over. And I just went on what I had to do. I realized what it was. Didn't know the impact of what it was going to be. But I knew that this wasn't the proper moment, and I'll tell you a reason for that. Is because that weekend, my daughter was getting married. And I didn't want this negative aspect, this curveball, this change to affect me. So I just flipped it over and put it on the table. And I never read it. After the wedding, several days later, I was in the office and I took the papers, read the first few lines, and I sent them to my attorney. My attorney immediately got on the phone and said, This is ridiculous. When did you get that? I said, sometime last week. He says, there's a time constraint to when we need to answer these things. I know, but didn't let it affect me. He said, what do you mean? Well, we still have time, don't we? But doesn't matter what it is. I was not going to let it change my life. And that's what's important in life. Sometimes the curve will be a little more daunting than you had expected. Things will happen. They happen for a reason. That's a whole different lecture. But the fact that they happen, don't let that affect your purpose in life. Because you're greater than that. You're stronger than that. You're bigger than that. And nothing happens ever to you that you can't handle. You must remember that. So, this is how you can live a life without regret. So that when it's all said and done, you can say, I did good. I did the best I could. And I'm proud of what I did. As always, I wish all the best to you and look forward to hearing good news, great news from you. News above and beyond. So let's make it happen. And God bless you. Thank you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell to get my latest update.